when you go back to the beginning of creation, right, there's God. Okay, now the Rebbe Shem obviously is not matter, but the Rebbe Shem, to us anyway, is an entity of some sort that we don't really know. Okay, now the entity of God, which is completely not just incomprehensible, that's not even the problem with it, is that's incomprehensible, but who God really is in terms of the truth of his being, it's not just that it's incomprehensible, there's no idea that can express that being. There are no words. So obviously it's incomprehensible. There's not even words to express the nature of that type of being. You see? Anyway, and I'm not going into the depths of this and so on, so what does that mean? But like I say, it's not that God is incomprehensible. He certainly is. The problem is that there are no concepts that can describe who he really is. Why? Because the concepts don't exist. You see, God has to create concepts, just like he has to create matter and so on, you see. So that's the problem with the Rebbe Shem. So what the Rebbe Shem has to do to overcome that problem? Then how do you connect to him? If he's not only not comprehensible, there's no concepts that describe that type of entity. And the answer is, well, guess what? He has to create the concepts that he can be described, as. And he does. So this is, we can call the first appearance of the Ribono Shel Olam into the Bria. And that's what the Bria is. It is a created concept place. Now the Ribono Shel Olam therefore can assume the guise of these concepts and say, okay, as far as you're concerned, this is who I am. So that's how he assumes his presence, or that's how he becomes known to us, because he actually has to create the concepts in which we now can describe him. So what is the concepts that he creates? And the answer is Ein Sof. Ein Sof. Now, Ein Sof itself is incomprehensible, but the concept of Ein Sof does exist, or we don't know what that is. We do know that God, in the form or the state of Ein Sof, right? We know in that form that, like I said, that there are concepts, but they are truly incomprehensible, without getting into what that means and so on. You see, so that's the concept where the Ribono Shel Olam now becomes knowable or identifiable at some level and so on. So the area called Atzmusoi, who he really is not only incomprehensible, right? There's no concepts that exist that can even describe that entity. So that's called Atzmusoi. That's the words I use, right? Now, God as a Nivra, so to speak, which means that he created concepts, right? In which he can identify himself, not that he is that, which he's not, but at least to us he can be identified, using that concept. So that is called Ein Sof. Fine. Now, Ein Sof itself is a level where the Ribono Shel Olam, like I said, is really incomprehensible, right? But at least there's something there that can be identified. Now, but Ein Sof itself has many states, like water, which is interesting. Okay, so there's a thing called Ein Sof, right? And then there's a different state of Ein Sof, right? We can call it Shechina as a general term. So Shechina is another state, just like steam is another state of water. Shechina is a state of Ein Sof, which is very interesting, you see. So Shechina is one. But there's another state of God. And most people are not aware of this, right? So we now understand what? Atzmusoi, which is I mentioned. Then Ein Sof, right? Which means he's can be identified in some concept, even though it's not comprehensible to us. But then there's Shekhinah, whatever that is, right? Which we can, because it represents God in that sense, or it's another state of God, we can therefore, get a grasp of the Rebbe Shalom. It's now more graspable, if you want to use that word. And what I want to bring out, and this is what I would have said at that Asifa, is that there is another state of God, right? There's Ein Sof, one. There's Shekhinah, which is two. But there's another state, and you know what that state is called? Torah. What Torah really is, and we have no idea of how and why. You see? Torah is God at a different state. You see? So instead of water and steam, you now have ice. I hate to use that word, ice. It sounds like God is very cold, right? But it's another state of matter or substance. Torah is that. What does it come out? Comes out amazing idea. That when you learn Torah, right, in some way you are attaching yourself to the being called God. Because that's another state of God. Now it's true we don't understand how. And by the way, Olam Haba is a place of exploration for eternity. That's in Olam Haba we go through all the different levels of understanding the different states of God. You see, that all happens in Olam Haba, which is very important and so on. But in Olam Haba we will understand what the Torah really is. You see? But what I'm trying to emphasize is Torah, even though we don't know how, like I said, to us it looks like a law book, but it's not that, really. That's how we understand it. But what Torah really is another state of the divine. It's another state of Elokus, of God. Therefore, when you learn Torah, what are you really doing? You are attaching yourself, dveikus, to God Himself. And that's why Torah is so significant, because it's God.